Well, hello everybody. Oh, it's a bit chilly in North Somerset tonight, isn't it, Chris?
It certainly is. The wind is blowing in from the southeast, actually, this evening. Just a bit further south, actually, just not very far away from us. There's some incredible weather brewing up. There's actually a whole row of thunderstorms from Trowbridge all the way across, and it's heading in our direction.
Oh, well, I'm doing ghost stories after this, so yeah, I'll take some.
Atmospheric.
It would. I'll take some thunderstorms if you don't mind. Yeah, I'll have that. Thank you very much. It's spring has apparently sprung, which is why I've got the heater on in the background here, as you can see. So, but we are technically into spring now, aren't we, Chris?
We are, and this early part of spring is notorious for
changing its mind.
You can have in one day all four seasons.
Yeah,
literally. The other day, I think we had that with those terrific hail storms. I don't know if you got them in your garden, but I did in mine. And it was like an ice pack out there when the storm went by. But just beforehand, the sun was incredibly warm. It was absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And then after the hail went, then came the autumnal winds. So,
no, I did. I'll show you some pics in a while. I did we walked the strawberry line today from Yatton to Congsbury, and it was when you were in the sun, it was lovely, and you could feel spring was definitely trying to warm everything up. But then you had that easterly wind coming through, and it was bitter. It really was. But hey ho. One of the things we are going to be talking about on a future show is trail cams and how to set up your own trail cam in your garden. And there we go. That's almost identical to mine. They're about, what are they, Chris? They're about 40 quid now, aren't they?
This one has been probably the most reliable trail cam I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had trail cams which can cost up to nearly £200, and they last about 3 or 4 months before that something goes. It's most frustrating. This one I think it was about 50 quid, and it's lasted years. What problem with it is that the seal's not very good on it. So if you get a rainy night, you tend to end up with a misty, foggy picture. Whereas the more you pay out is those pictures tend to be much more superior. But I loved what it said on the box when I first opened this up. It said, definitely not broadcast quality. And that's being honest.
Yeah. Well, I think I've got probably the identical model to you. It was bought from a well-known online retailer, but I've had mine set up in the garden, and we've been putting up pictures on the Wild Portishead page, and oh my goodness me, the visitors I get. So this is from the other night, and oh look, it's a fox. Absolutely brilliant. If you look at the timestamp at the bottom, folks, this has just gone 9:30. And I've looked at the timestamps previously, and this fox is pretty regular. It comes up at about 9:30 at night. So what we've got there, 2 dishes. One has some proprietary hedgehog food in it, with some chunks of carrot and other hedgehog safe stuff. The one on the left of the screen is water. And I cannot stress how important it is to make sure that if you're feeding animals, make sure there's water there as well. There is our fox. I think that's a female, Chris.
Yes, you can definitely see enlarged teats there. So yeah, that's a vixen.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Just hold on to the fox for a moment, because obviously when I'm taking Mark for a walk, sometimes of the evening, we go when we're walking along in the dark, you can smell fox because they'll leave a scent trail as a way of marking. And the past few times we've walked down your end of Portishead, we've bypassed you. And I think I've left you some photographs of your cat somewhere.
You have. You leave me pictures of my drive, and I'm being stalked.
And when I get to your place and down below your place, and in Gardner Road as well, there is the quite strong scent of fox around there. So I'm guessing with the timestamp on this, with the fact that also without seeing them, we can smell them very strongly, that there's a den very close by. So maybe in a few weeks' time, you're not just seeing the vixen. She may.
Interesting you say that, because if she's coming up the path, right? So the adjoining wall behind her is to the houses on Gardner Road.
Ah, right. Okay, so it all fits. Yep.
Yes, it all fits. So there she is, helping herself to the hedgehog food. There she definitely is helping herself to the hedgehog food. This is a tricky one, Chris, because I've read conflicting things about mealworms for hedgehogs. And some sources say that they are incredibly bad for hedgehogs. Others say they're fine. I've played it safe, and like I say, I've gone out and swapped. Now that I know the hedgehogs are around, I've swapped it for a proprietary brand of hedgehog food. So you know,
yeah. Yep.
What are your thoughts about mealworms? Or mealworm husks, I think is the best way of describing them.
Yeah, mealworm husks, I tend to try and avoid. I'd rather have the real mealworm, but let's just take the whole thing back a bit, because I don't know your garden that well, but I have seen a lot of pictures. I would argue that you've probably got a garden which has enough natural resource for them in any case. So is it a question here of the fact that you want them to come to a central point so that you can get a photograph of them, a little bit of footage of them, and you can check that they're there and that they're okay? Because I got a sneaking suspicion a garden like yours is going to have enough food for them in any case.
Okay.
So I'm not saying don't feed. I'm certainly an advocate of, when it comes to feeding the birds, is actually creating the garden to such an extent that there is enough natural resource there, almost like taking our gardens back to the 40s and the 50s, when there really was natural resource there. Hence, we had more of them, rather than supplementary feeding, which, of course, with birds would tend to favor the more aggressive, larger species. So if you take you've got, I know in your garden you've got great tit, you've got blue tit, you've got coal tit. You have, because you're fairly close to a woodland, you have potential of marsh tit as well. So the great tit obviously is the larger one of those, and I certainly know that when we were extensively feeding, that the great tits would be the most dominant of the tits, and they would try and push away the smaller species. And so I think also, if you've got a garden situation, then you have the resource in a much bigger space, so to speak. I'm not saying don't feed. All I'm saying is that I think you're fairly lucky that you've got natural resource in any case. What I am saying is that if you have got to feed, make sure that you have got other natural resource for the species, for other species, so that you get that diversity.
Yeah.
You're not just favoring the large aggressive ones.
Yeah. We mentioned hedgehogs.
Yes.
Ta-da! So there is the timestamp of this is 11 minutes past 1 in the morning. And the hedgehog makes it. These are quite steep steps. So I'm really impressed that this one can make its way up the garden path.
They are very well. Yeah.
There it is, getting stuck into the proprietary hedgehog food. And more crucially, there it is having a drink as well.
Yes,
and I'm just wondering whether this is a a female hog, Chris.
I can't see really clear enough. I mean, yeah, I've got my reading glasses on, but even that's not really going to help me here.
No.
I can't.
Perhaps I'll. What I might do is I might ping some images over to our friend Beryl Casey, because she will know.
That's
but then it got interesting, because what's the timestamp here? 12 minutes past 1. Because at 19 minutes past 1, another mammal entered the picture.
Excellent.
And this is these days, sadly, the much maligned badger. Now, if you keep an eye on the timestamp, this is 1:19:38. The hedgehog seemingly stops in its tracks and kind of retracts into that classic hedgehog ball. And when I look at the that's 1:28. So we're missing a picture here, but at 1:26, it was still curled up with the badger close by. Then 2 minutes later, the badger's gone, and the hedgehog is back foraging again. So I don't know where I don't know where that picture went, but then that's 1:28, and then 4 o'clock in the morning. This was another night, but 4 o'clock in the morning, we had a
woodmouse. Excellent. Can you go back to your badger again? Just flip back. Sorry. Flip back.
Yes.
I'm going to sex it for you. So that's a boar. That's a male.
Yeah.
You can see the very well-rounded head at the top, very strong on the front. That's a classic boar. Obviously, that's lovely. That's brilliant. If we were to look very closely at those ears, we might find little nicks in them where it's been fighting with other badgers. But that looks like a dominant boar from a set. I would say, what's that, 1:19? I would say that set is relatively close to you. But yes, much maligned animal because of obviously disease factors with cattle, but also maligned because, of course, as I saw on a post the other day, which I was incredibly surprised at, from an area, a former area of outstanding natural beauty, where they were saying good riddance to the badger because of what they do to the hedgehog. And there you are, showing us pictures of the two side by side.
Isn't that a bit of an old wives' tale that badgers...
No, it's not. It really does happen. It really does happen. I mean, on the edge of Western Bigwood, I would find hedgehogs that had clearly gone into a ball, and a badger had turned them inside out. So they can do it. So it does happen. But the point is it the badger that has driven down the hedgehog in population? Now, I would argue, if you take Portishead on its own, absolutely not. There is another predator of the hedgehog, which probably has taken down the number of hedgehogs that we've got, and it's got 4 wheels.
I was just going to say, has it got 4 wheels and an engine?
Yeah, and that will have had a tremendous effect. But you must think about what we have done to our gardens since, for example, as I mentioned, 40s and 50s and 60s. What we've done to our gardens is we've completely tidied them up, or we've completely covered them in artificial plastic or whatever. And some of our gardens are probably too small to be viable these days. So I think it's, when you talk about hedgehog decline, you're talking about a combination of factors. And when a population gets that low, if there is any predatory effect, it's going to be quite significant because the population's already so low. But in fact, the thing that's the real problem here is not the badger. I would suggest we go and look in a mirror. Then we'll see the problem.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, and as you say, the thing about my garden, I mean, my garden's probably about 100 foot long. It's about 100 foot long and about 20.
Hey, you could get another house in there. Think of the money you.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. But the thing is right at the end of the garden, there are gaps in the like the wire fencing which certainly allows next door's cats to come in, or the neighbouring cats to come in, but they've got free passage. They can go up the path, but then they can go up the drive and then go out the front as well. So they've got absolutely free access. So so there we go. We had the mouse at this was the other night. We had a mouse at 21 minutes past 4 in the morning. But as we were saying before the show, I tell you what, I don't get on my trail cams, Chris, and that's rats.
No, and you're feeding. And you're feeding. So there is again a significant observation, if you like. It's partially to do with what I call loosely the Yellowstone effect. I'm not going to go into detail about what the Yellowstone effect is, but in essence, what it is you've mentioned 3 major predators of rats which come into your garden. You've got the domestic cat, you've got the red fox, and you've got the European badger. All of those, the presence of all of those and the smell from all of those is going to deter rats. That's not to say somewhere you haven't got them, but they are being extra cautious about being visual. And this was something I highlighted last night, because we had on a talk I did, we had a question about why is it in certain parts of Portishead where we live, you are able to see so many rats and you can almost walk up to them and they don't do anything, or they just move a little bit. It's quite simple. They have no predatory pressure whatsoever.
Yep.
Because if we're chemicalizing those rats, if we're giving them poison, at the end, what will happen is, because they breed so rapidly, if there's a major issue within the population, they can almost breed it out because they breed so fast. But the predators don't do that. And the predators build up the toxins, and the predators are the ones that normally succumb first, so to speak. So I would argue in those places in Portishead where we see a lot of rats congregating, then we probably haven't got any foxes around there. We probably haven't got any badgers, and we probably haven't got any domestic cats, and we probably have done for any tawny owls that would be there. And we used to have a really good population of all of those, including the domestic cat into that as well. But all of those will be affected. Now, we've got to start trusting predators. There's no way a predator can hunt its host to down in number to a great degree. Basically, if it did, it would have nothing to eat. So there's a bit of logic needs to take place. What it does is it by its presence, it actually disrupts the behavior of those, for example, rats. And the other problem is that wherever we highlight in Portishead, for example, where there is a major rat issue, very often the fault is seen to be excess or lengthy or untidy vegetation. I would argue, go and look at that vegetation and see what's in there. And you will find discarded McDonald's cartons, and you will find discarded contents from cars, and the list will continue. The rats go, whoopee, yep, we've got some food. Until you change our behavior, we're going to have the same problem. And that must change, because all we're doing is throwing good money after bad by trying to poison them all. Once the poison's finished, they come back.
No, absolutely. I know there's some areas in Clevedon that are really bad for rats. I'm not going to say where they are because it'll upset people, but yeah, they've had a real quite grim actually. I've been out walking with my friend Alan.
About where I say in Portishead, so
sorry.
I've been careful about where I say.
It's my friend Alan who I go out for a walk every week, which we'll come to in a second. I've been out walking with him through Clevedon, and he'll point to an area, and then we just suddenly see 2 or 3 rats dart across the road. It's quite anyway. This so to come to the end of the some of my trail cam footage. This was pretty much the dawn chorus. There is our good friend Erythacus rubecula. And here is a bird I know you're going to be talking about in a while, Chris. Then we had a male blackbird turned up, and then the female.
Just hold it there, because you're trying to inspire people to get trail cams. I know that. Look at the wonderful quality of this picture. That's actually,
I think that's pretty good.
It's marvelous. It's absolutely marvelous.
I think that's pretty good for a 40 quid trail cam.
Absolutely, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and just a couple more, and then we'll go on to your pick. So this was my feeders during the week. As we can see there, we've got 2 female house sparrows, a male house sparrow, red listed species, and a blue tit. They absolutely adore the fat balls. Then the other day I had a jay, magnificent birds. Just the colours on them are absolutely fabulous. And then I also had a coal tit.
Yes, that's good.
Brilliant bird. And just very, 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 very quickly, like I said, Alan and I go for a walk every week. And today we've been doing monthly walks of the strawberry line between Yatton and Congsbury, managed by our friends at YACWAG, Yatton and Congsbury Wildlife Action Group. And if you've never done the strawberry line between these 2 destinations, it's utterly fabulous. And we're doing it monthly, pretty much at the same time every month, we are seeing the changes in the landscape and the wildlife. And one of the birds that we heard the most today was our dear friend, the chiffchaff, which announces who it is, because it goes chip chap, chip chap, chip chap. Absolutely beautiful birds. And these were taken today. These were taken with my 300mm Nikon, and just fabulous birds, Chris. But we also, lots of robins and also blackbirds. And I might put a plug in at the end. I've been using a bird ID app that's done by Cornell University. Have you heard about that one?
Yeah, you got that one?
Yeah, very good.
I've tested the Merlin app out, and it is exceptionally good. And it's also good for those people that have got it. It's good for surveying as well, because if you actually if you've recorded a bird and you go down the files, you will see, is this my bird? Click on this is my bird, and then that will open up some extra bit of data, which you just fill in very quickly, and it'll come up with a map of where you saw that bird.
Yep.
Then you're actually building up a map of where. And I tested the Merlin app this time last year on great tits. So I took a circular walk round Western Bigwood, and it recorded all the great tits that were singing. And the other important thing about that is that recording is retained. So I can go back through it, and it also gives you a lovely graph of the call itself. And so I can look at that graph and break down individuality between different great tits.
That's the app, folks. I probably can't see it. Well, we'll put up a screen grab of it. But I was using it today and on the strawberry line. And the thing is obviously you're getting a lot of traffic coming out of Lulsgate. So you're getting a lot of aircraft noise. And I'm there, and I'm kind of like, come on, hurry up and fly away, for God's sake. And the app came up with chiffchaff, actually. And I thought, well, I can hear great tits, but I can't hear chiffchaff. And then in the distance, I suddenly heard that kind of, and it was so faint. And yet that app is so sensitive that it can actually pick these noises out from aircraft flying overhead. Absolutely sensational. Right, Chris, your turn now.
Really?
Spring has sprung, hasn't it?
Spring has sprung. Go. What are we looking at? Oh, yes. So, these are tawny owlets, and these are pre-branching stage. What that means in English is that they're not really ready to come out from the nest yet. But certainly the one on the left is probably about, I would say, a week and a half, 2 weeks away from jumping out of its box, and then a month away from further from maintaining any form of flight, so to speak. So these two are very, very young, and some tawny owls have gone early this year. So some have started laying eggs in January, believe it or not. But it seems to me that a lot of the boxes that we've put up, that they are at normal time. So I say the majority of them should be on eggs now, and this is the time where we just keep away from them completely. They are vulnerable to disturbance, like any bird. When they're at the incubation stage, you just back off and keep away. But as part of the research that I do, when they have got young, when they're a bit older than this, I will go and visit those boxes, and we put a little identification ring on the leg, licensed through the BTO, the British Trust for Ornithology. Has an individual ring on it, and obviously if that ring is then found, it gives us an idea of how far these youngsters will distribute, how long they live, and what kills them, in essence. So we get some really good research off of this, and I've been doing this now since I was first licensed in the late 80s, so it's been a long time. So yeah, we got an awful lot of data here for that. Yeah. So yeah, but can you just go back one? So message for everybody here is, if you find baby owlets on the ground, if they're this age, then they need to be plonked back up into the nest. They've come out far too young. But if you find a downed, branched owlet, in other words, a bit older than this, in most cases, unless there's anything terrifically dangerous nearby, like a cat, a fox, or a major road system, then just pull out and leave well alone, because they will be capable of climbing the tree themselves. Right, sorry, go on.
Talking of nests, these are your nest cams, aren't they?
Yes. This is a very good nest cam, actually, because it actually alerts my phone every time there's any movement in there. So this is a great tip, and there's a bit of a war going on at the moment between the great tits and the blue tits over who's going to have the box. There's the blue tit in there. The war, I would say, the war is more of a presence than anything physical, as far as I can see. I haven't seen anything physical between them. But there is a pair of blue tits and there is a pair of great tits. But the great tits now have upped the stakes slightly. So if we go on, go on.
Yep.
There, we should have some video, and it was 4 nights ago when the great tit decided not just to visit during the daytime, but to stay and go to sleep. So, and it's now, if I was to put my phone on now onto the live camera view, it would actually show a great tit fast asleep inside. Is that sound coming out on there? No.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, the file that you sent me, we lost the sound on it. But
yeah, because let's tell the audience. I mean, basically, as that's playing, there's actually that's around about 10:30 at night, and in the background you'll hear, and that's a wild barn owl come into my garden, and the great tit doesn't flinch.
No. It's also interesting to look at the timestamps here, because the blue tit was in there at 7:24.
Yep.
And the great tit was in there at 9 minutes past 8. So they're almost kind of bumping into each other.
They are. Can you see the bottom of the box as well?
Yes.
So this is one of the things I think that this is not a box that we've made. We bought the whole thing with the camera on board as well. And it's actually got a solar panel which goes with it. So, and I've got to say that solar panel is so efficient. It holds at 100% for 24 hours a day, even on a cloudy, wet day. It's incredible. Anyway, so that's basically, we got an extra Wi-Fi booster on the edge of the house, which allows the Wi-Fi to stream straight into the house. And I can be anywhere at all with my phone, and I can pick up the images straight away. So the live view shows you motion. These are stills, and also you can record bits and bobs of video as well. So as soon as hopefully by the time we do our next live, they'll either actually be building or they will be nesting. At the moment, they're bang on time, nothing to worry about. So I would expect them to begin building in the next few weeks as the temperature goes up. And don't forget, they've got to time having their young exactly with the time that the maximum amount of caterpillars are available, or aphids or other insects to feed on in the garden. So they've got to absolutely time it perfectly. If they don't, the brood could literally be wiped out.
Yeah, we've seen that on television programs, haven't we? Where the timing has just not worked out at all, and especially if you get like a cold snap or something. Here we are. We're talking about birds have already started breeding, but we're in the middle of a cold snap at the moment. Just talking about cameras, one of the things we are going to be doing at some stage is I'm going to be putting together a how-to to set up a trail cam in your garden. So just the basics. We're going to try and strip it back to, the really kind of like, the affordable entry-level stuff. So in terms of the camera, memory card, rechargeable batteries, all that, and is price it up, show people how to set them up and whatever, and then hopefully encourage more people to perhaps, especially if you've got kids, it's great for them to set up a trail cam and they can then see what's going on in the garden, which, it hopefully then sparks a lifetime interest in nature and everything. But it will also help to build up a picture of what visits our gardens at night when we're asleep. So Chris, we've got another one of your pictures here.
Oh, hang on, I've just been looking at Facebook. We've got an audience.
We have got an audience.
Yes, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Do we do some of the questions? Oh no,
we've got some comments here. Do you want me to go through the comments? We've got Olwen Jones who says hi there. Hello, Olwen. And Ben Egrin Nicholas says, yo dudes. Back to you, Ben.
Hi Ben, hope you're okay, mate.
Dave White makes a very good point. He says, agree, Merlin app is fantastic. Top tip, the app has the default bird pack of Britain and Ireland. It is worth adding the Europe pack, as I have found a few that are missing. Dave also adds, if we are talking apps, OBS Identify is excellent too, although it doesn't identify by sounds. It will work by using photos for animals, bird, plants, etc. It has a huge database and will link to Wikipedia and other pages. I've got to say, Dave puts a lot of photographs up on Facebook. He is an astonishingly brilliant photographer. So thanks for
well done, Dave.
Tip there. And Alex Lovell says, top tip, if you register for the free trial of bird guides, then install the app. The app is still active and providing data after the trial period is over. Brilliant. Right. Okay. There we go. There's some more apps to try out there. So absolutely fabulous. So keep the comments coming in, folks. So Chris, what are we looking at here?
Well, the lesser celandines are well and truly out now. Go for a walk in the woodland or along the grass verges that haven't been cut.
No,
you will see lesser celandines out. Look out for tiny little bees on them, because those will be some of the early mining bees.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Next we have
and the woodland enemy as well. Yeah, classic of the woodland area. For those of you around Eastwood, take a walk up through Eastwood at the moment and see if you could spot this. As soon as the canopy comes across in the trees, they're one of the first plants to appear in the spring, but obviously they're one of the first to go as soon as the leaf and the trees come out. Obviously they've got no more light of function. So Western Bigwood and Eastwood, great places to go and see this beautiful flower.
Eastwood is fantastic. I mean, I live literally just around the corner from it. and it's such a brilliant place to go. Some good paths up there. Yeah, I absolutely love it up there. Next, we have what do we have here, Chris? It looks like Mothra's cousin.
Yeah, that's the Mothra's cousin. That's the bee fly, which is an incredible insect. They're available at the moment. This is one I got in my garden, and so this is the spotted bee fly. You see the lovely margins down the wing there, and can you see right at the front it's a great pollinator. But the other thing is that what it will do is it will throw its eggs when it comes to laying eggs. Remember those mining bees I was talking about earlier? It'll go looking for the holes in the ground of them and start spraying its eggs into them, so it will become a parasite of those.
No, it's such a I've been very lucky to have in my garden down the years the very similar, well, kind of like slightly similar looking hummingbird moth, which is just a phenomenal sight. If ever you've seen one, you think to yourself, you know, you're slightly confused because you want to think, oh, is it a bird? Is it a moth? It's a hummingbird moth. And absolutely fabulous sight. And well,
this is the bee fly, which is obviously completely different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And next we have what?
Oh yeah, well, we've got our local peregrine falcons, and I was lucky enough today to go dumping some rubbish, like you do.
Legally, we will.
Legally, yeah. I forgot that bit, didn't I? Yeah, and in our what we used to call the rubbish dump is now called the civic community site.
Yeah.
And the male peregrine was just returning with some food for his female, so she's on eggs now, and obviously safe in that side of the main quarry. So she's down on eggs now, and hopefully they'll have a brilliant season. But don't forget, you can watch many webcams of peregrine falcons. If you go to the Hawk and Owl Trust website, I think we've got 3 different nests on the go at the moment, and of course our barn owls are live as well. And so the barn owls, the peregrines are in Bath and in Norfolk Cathedral, and the barn owls are actually on the Somerset levels. The barn owls haven't laid yet, but the signs are that they could probably begin laying within the next week or so.
And I'm just going to bring that up. There we go. Hawk and Owl Trust.
Go to live cameras.
We
could be really cheeky. Go to Norwich Cathedral Peregrines. See what they've got there. Go on. See if we can get a view. Go on.
There we go.
Yeah, live. We're live at the Hawk and Owl Trust.
Yeah, let's not impinge on there. Before we get, I've had all manner of problems with other channels. I've had takedown notices because we've used a bit of lively music or whatever. But yeah, and we were talking about breeding earlier on.
No, we weren't. Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, birds, Chris, birds for the day.
Yeah, the male blackbirds and females in my garden have been busily collecting material. They've been doing that now for a few weeks. So they've had one failure. So they've tried to build a nest and failed. Now they're starting again. So hopefully they get it right this time, and their timing is better. And hopefully she'll rear a brood. Last year was an awful season for them. And that is... it was difficult to find any young blackbirds at all. There just didn't seem to be many around, full stop. And when things like that happen, they are warning signs. They're not long-lived birds, and if they don't replace themselves, they've got big problems.
Yeah. Just going to ping up a comment here from Ben, who says, my new honeysuckle and dog rose in my garden have finally started sprouting now too. My clematis is also bursting into bud. too. And Dave White also says, thanks for mentioning my photos. If anyone would like to see them, you're welcome to follow me and or join the Portishead Pics Facebook group, where there are a number of superb wildlife photographers sharing their photographs. I absolutely second that. And Alex says, Peregrine caught a sparrowhawk at Avon Gorge last week. And they also said, I looked for her at the quarry last week when visiting the tip. It's got to be said, Chris, this is one of those weird kind of dichotomies, is that amenities centres, or what we call, recycling centres or tips, tend to be fabulous wildlife resources, don't they?
They do. And what's interesting is that the peregrines have been breeding at that quarry. I think I was the first one to set a watch up there. So that would have been around about 1993.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've moved to the civic amenity site. If it was the other way around, let's say hypothetically that the peregrines were there and we were going to have a civic amenity site, it probably wouldn't be allowed to happen because it would be classified as disturbance to the peregrines. But because the peregrines have come to the civic amenity site, knowing what goes on, then there's no disturbance factor whatsoever.
Yep.
So it's really interesting. It's much better that way around, that the birds come to us and we don't go chasing them, so to speak.
No, absolutely. You mentioned Eastwood. I'm just going to share this picture. This is just up the road from Eastwood, and this is, oh my goodness me. I had to go out and post a letter the other day, and just the colours of the sky and the flowers on the ground and everything, it was just beautiful, absolutely stunning. And I look at that photograph now and I think to myself, goodness me, that's literally 2-minute walk up the road from me. It's yeah, I think this is one of those things that sometimes we forget what we've got on our doorstep in terms of just resources. And I know this is something that we've always been keen to kind of point out, is that we've got so much wildlife on our doorstep. It's there if you kind of like look up and care to go looking for it. So
it was 2018 when I went round Portishead. Took me a long time, but I went round the whole of Portishead, just doing an audit of different places and the kind of quality that they were. And I started that very much with the view that not much was going to come up to scratch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was gobsmacked. And I can remember saying to a counsellor at the time that I was actually very surprised that those areas that are good are very good.
Mm-hmm.
Those other areas which aren't so good that we could make good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the continuity of it, I think, is the most pressing thing. And I think not just for us, but for wildlife as well. It'll make the town, which is an urban town, let's not beat about the bush here. It'll make the town that much better quality for us as well as the wildlife.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I know from obviously from last year, not being able to drive for however many months it was, I was on foot everywhere, and it's certainly being out on foot, and especially being out on foot early in the morning sometimes, that connection that you get with nature. And yeah, I think I think sometimes it's very, very easy to think that that we haven't got certain kind of like benefits of nature within the town, because we think of it as being quite industrialized, quite urbanized. But actually, if you go out and look, it's there. And especially we've got so many resources in Portishead, like the riverside walk that you can take along the side of Sainsbury's, and out that way, if you're lucky, you might see the kingfisher down there. I've only ever seen it as a blue silver flash, but we'll talk about that on a future show, I think, Chris.
We should. Yeah, definitely.
Right, we've this has been a bumper show this evening, and here we go. Dave White makes a very good point. He says a place that could be a very good is Slade Road school site. Any news on what might happen?
Over to you.
Well, I did have a meeting with Portishead Town Council the other week, and was able to advise Glendale on just some interim work that they could do before the breeding season sets in. Chris, I think you and I are of an opinion that once that's over, there is certainly, you could push the brambles back quite a bit on that site.
Yes.
Open it up a bit more, but not to the detriment of wildlife. But that's something we'll talk about on another show.
Yeah, Slate Road, the old football pitch lends itself beautifully to something very human and very wild at the same time. And you can literally, at the moment, if you can imagine that the top of the screen. Oh, I didn't realize this was so back to front. There. So if you can imagine the stream that's the boundary between Portishead Town Council land and North Somerset Council land, the bramble is now halfway across the field. So you can afford to push that right back up to the stream. Not eradicate it, you don't need to, but you can actually push it back up. And so you can still retain the wildlife that lives within that. But you can open the field up and you can have a much more diverse grass sward within there, which will be good for wildflowers, good for people to run around, do what they want to do without destroying anything.
This is one of the things that hopefully we will be feeding. We're certainly very keen to try and advise the town council and just try and give them the right kind of feedback, hopefully. But yeah, it's exciting times for Slade Road. So certainly one of the things I'm very keen on doing is at the bottom end of the slope, community orchard. You've got all the space there you can put a community orchard in. Chris, we're going to have to wrap it up in a second, but I am just going to bring this up because you and I had an adventure the other week, didn't we? We had an adventure.
Oh, last Friday. Yes.
We went to Gloucestershire, and what's the name of this village? Wiltshire, sorry. Wiltshire, Gloucestershire. It's not Somerset. That's all I know.
Look, everybody on Facebook, if you look in the middle of the picture, that's Jonathan's helicopter.
No, that's not my helicopter. That's right. Let's just see if anybody can guess what this is from. But what's the name of the village, Chris?
Devil's End.
No, its real name.
Oldbourne.
Oldbourne, right. You've probably got people who know exactly what that is. That is Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart's helicopter from the classic 1971 John Pertwee Doctor Who story, The Demons. That's it in 1971. That's it in 2024. Oh my goodness me. It really hasn't changed that much. Apart from the cars, it really hasn't changed that much. And utterly brilliant. We went to the church as well, didn't we, Chris?
Yeah.
We didn't meet these people.
You look pretty scared there.
I do. Yeah, you're looking dapper in the cape and the red velvet jacket.
It's blonde hair, mate. It's the blonde.
But yeah, we went to the church there, which again, 53 years later, oh my goodness me, some of that algae really hasn't changed that much, has it?
The tree at the back has grown.
You what? Sorry.
The tree at the back has grown.
Yeah, the tree at the back has grown. Yeah. And we've got one more photograph that I just want to bring in because it will come as no surprise to anybody that we went to a pub, and we went to the Cloven Hoof, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was called the Cloven Hoof.
Called the Cloven Hoof in the episodes. In real life, it's called the Blue Boar. Unsurprisingly, Oldbourne is very proud of its Doctor Who lineage, and they go big on it, don't they, Chris?
There's actually an exhibition in that pub.
Yeah,
it's very, very good. It definitely needs a return trip, and and an overnight for a few pints in that pub.
I absolutely agree. In case people are wondering, I tune in to watch a wildlife program. Why are they talking about Doctor Who? Chris and I.
You've not put up the book. You know,
Oh, the book. Yeah, we'll do the book in a second. Yeah,
Oh,
Chris and I are massive John Pertwee Doctor Who fans. So anyway, Chris, we'll end with this. You have put some contributions into this
I write
book edited by your friend Ian Parsons.
Yes. This is a book which is, I think it's got probably 9 or 10 different authors. I've got a chapter in there, and this is the great misconceptions of rewilding, myths, and misunderstandings. It's going to be a must read. On Twitter, it's already called a must read. I can't believe it. So there we go. Yeah, it's due for release in August, but you can pre-order now.
Mm-hmm.
So go to Whittle's website, the book publishers, and you can pre-order now. It's going to be launched in August, and I think we'll probably do a local launch here. We'll get Ian up, and we'll probably do a local launch at our local bookshop if we can persuade them. I have another book coming out as well in 2025, which is all about owls.
Oh, excellent. Right, goodness me. We've actually managed to fill an hour tonight, Chris, pretty much, which is quite exceptional. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in tonight. And we, fingers crossed, we will be back for another live, hopefully in a month's time. In the meantime, do continue to post your images and observations on our Facebook page and on our Twitter feed as well. Chris, we will chat during the week, but until the next time, just want to say thanks to everybody who's tuned in tonight, and we will hopefully see you pretty much towards the end of April, just after my birthday, end of April. So there we go. He said fishing. But yeah, we will see you in a month's time. So until then, everybody, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and get out there and enjoy nature.
Bye for now.
See you later.